Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So today's going to be all Killer Frost. Everybody dust off your winter is coming puns because we are probably going to see her on The Flash Season 2. There are actually 4 different versions of her character in the comics, but the important one is Caitlin Snow, the most recent version, because she's being played by the very wonderful Danielle Panabaker on The Flash. And new round of the DC giveaway starts now. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video. Special giveaway whenever we get to Comic-Con. So just careful for spoilers for The Flash Season 1 if you haven't seen the finale yet, because I'll be talking about Caitlin Snow, Killer Frost. We got a teaser for her in that finale, and there were a lot of questions as to what that meant, what Barry was seeing. He was traveling along his own timeline, so that was presumably something from the future. The way the Reverse Flash explained it, Barry was seeing events across all points of his timeline, like the current timeline. So the way I see it, our current version of Caitlin is going to become Killer Frost in the future, unless Team Flash tries to do something crazy to change the future. That would create a new timeline, but remember, the Reverse Flash said that when you try and do that, when you try to change the future to avoid some big catastrophic event, time will find a way to replace that with something just as bad. You also have to consider that the writers on The Flash probably wouldn't tease us with something like Danielle Panabaker or Killer Frost if they never intended to deliver it. So unless they say otherwise at Comic-Con next week, plan on Killer Frost at some point in Season 2. The real question is why? Why does super nice karaoke best friend Caitlin turn into Killer Frost? We know she's a metahuman, but the way she looks now and the way she looked in that vision are dramatically different. Like she had super blonde hair. Her version of the character is the 4th Killer Frost. She's like the New 52 Killer Frost, although technically there were 2 Killer Frosts that appeared during the New 52. DC just rebooted their entire line, so we don't know what's going to happen with Killer Frost going forward, but presumably they'd let Caitlin Snow keep on being Killer Frost, because DC and Marvel have both started to make the comics look a little bit more like the movies and the TV shows that they do. Felicity Smoke is a really good example of that in the Green Arrow comics. Felicity actually started out a long time ago during the Firestorm comics as the stepmom of Ronnie Raymond. Cut to right now in the comics, because of the popularity of the character on Arrow, they've started to make her look more like the TV show version of the character. So yay for Emily Bett Rickards. Maybe they'll do the same thing with Danielle Panabaker, we'll see. You can see like DC's thought process, where it's like millions of people see a certain version of a character on TV, and they're thinking, well hey, maybe they want to read more stories with this character, so let's make comic books that reflect that. It's true for both Marvel and DC, like the films and the TV shows drive up comic book sales big time. The original version of the character kind of has a funny story, especially when you think about it in the context of the TV show characters. The very first version of the character was named Crystal Frost. She started out in Firestorm number 3. She was one of Martin Stein's students. She fell in love with him, but because he wasn't the pervy kind of college professor, he turned her down. She got super pissed, locked herself in a chamber, and you wind up with a pretty standard science experiment gone wrong origin story. She came out of this special chamber with ice-based powers. Her motivation as a villain became attacking men. Like she hated men, she literally had a frozen heart. So you get the metaphor. Martin Stein turned her art to ice, and then it literally turned to ice. The reason she started attacking Firestorm was because Martin Stein was one half of Firestorm. She ended up dying whenever she absorbed too much of his heat energy though, but she was resurrected as a Black Lantern during Blackest Night. You really gotta watch out how you treat those ex-girlfriends because they might come back as super zombies. So the next Killer Frost was Louise Lincoln. She debuted in Firestorm Volume 2, number 21, but she didn't become Killer Frost until about 13 issues later. She was actually like a best friend and colleague of Crystal Frost. She idolized her so much that she tried to recreate the accident that gave her the Killer Frost powers. It worked, and she started trying to get revenge on Firestorm for Crystal's death. Most of you will probably know this version of the character as the Suicide Squad version. You could also call her the sexy version of the character. They gave her like giant boobs, they softened all her features, they made her more attractive. This version of the character is the one that they used during the Assault on Arkham animated movie last year. If you haven't seen that, you should check it out. I mean, it's a good movie all by itself. She even became part of this frozen villain team up. DC has a lot of like ice-based villains. So Gorilla Grodd, in this instance where he was attacking a bunch of superheroes, mind controls Mr. Freeze, Icicle, Captain Cold, and Killer Frost to team up against superheroes. She even fought Oliver Queen in Green Arrow Volume 3, number 55. That was about 10 years ago, but it was before the New 52 reboot. He defeated her by shooting her with a Greek fire arrow, which we have not seen on the TV show yet. That'd be pretty badass. For those of you that don't know what Greek fire is, it's a lot like wildfire on Game of Thrones. You can't put it out with water. You either have to smother it or cut its oxygen supply off. After the New 52 reboot, Lauren Frontier became the new Killer Frost for a brief period. She debuted whenever the new Firestorm kicked off, Firestorm version 4. That was when they changed the way Firestorm's powers worked, and Jason Rush and Ronnie Raymond both are able to become Firestorm on their own. So she attacks them, but they fuse to make a single Firestorm, and the reaction that causes takes her down. Then a little while after that, in 2013, a couple years later, but still during the New 52, they introduced the Caitlin Snow Killer Frost. Her origin story is kind of a twist on the first two versions of the character's origin stories, that chemical reaction, like the science experiment accident. The twist is that the accident was caused by Hive agents. Like, she's in a facility investigating this device. Hive agents have infiltrated. She gets trapped, goes through the reaction, and comes out with Killer Frost powers. The difference this time is that she's more of like a heat vampire. That's her motivation. Whenever she absorbs heat, it makes her look more human. Like, it slowly returns her to a more normal state. So she's always constantly seeking heat sources to absorb. The reason she goes after Firestorm is because he's like an unlimited source of heat. So she's not in love with him like Caitlin on the TV show is. You can see how the TV show version of the character is kind of a blend of all these different Killer Frost characters. We can only guess as to why she might turn against Team Flash and why her appearance would change, why she get that light-colored hair. But just expect the writers to pull things from her comic book history to incorporate into the TV show. It's the same way that Barry Allen on the TV show is kind of a combination of Wally West in the comics and Barry Allen in the comics. So like I said, her powers are pretty similar to a lot of the other ice-based villains. Like, she just has like standard ice-based attacks, but the newer versions of the character can absorb heat. She's also been able to mind control people by kissing them. If you're wondering what she might look like on the TV show, then just think of what Captain Cold would look like if he didn't need the gun. So here's my big question for you guys. On the TV show, what do you think is going to happen to turn Caitlin Snow into full-blown Killer Frost? We just learned in the finale that she and Cisco are both metahumans, so she probably doesn't know that she has powers yet because Cisco didn't know he had powers. What they might do is choose to honor the original version of the character and make her turn cold metaphorically because of something with Ronnie Raymond. They just got married, she's super in love with him. Remember how she got when she thought he was still dead. So if he were sidelined or something happened to him, something terrible, that might push her over the edge. She knows that Barry can go back in time, so if she were to like ask Barry, hey, can you go back in time, change the past so that this does not happen to Ronnie, and he refuses, that might be something to create a huge rift between them. Because even if she does get powers, that doesn't explain why she would turn against Team Flash. And no matter what she ends up doing, don't think of her as an outright villain. Like, even Captain Cold isn't an outright villain. He's more of an antagonist who's going to be an anti-hero during Legends of Tomorrow. Not quite good, but not quite bad. For those asking about Comic-Con though, we actually have a little bit of information about what's going on with all the DC TV shows. They're doing the big DC Super Panel like they did last year, but they'll mostly be there to show off new stuff for Legends of Tomorrow and Supergirl, but they will have like Arrow and Flash stuff. They haven't started shooting the new seasons yet, so it's not like they have big trailers to show off, but Stephen Amell did promise that they would be bringing something special. The only way I'd be allowed to post footage would be if DC says it's okay, but usually they're really good about posting that stuff online, so I'm not too worried about that. So in addition to posting the panel stuff, I should be able to post like the new footage too. I haven't completely worked out my schedule yet, but later this week I'm going to start doing specific Comic-Con previews that'll say, what the schedule's going to be, when I'm going to post videos, what's going to be happening, so be sure to subscribe to get everything. It's going to be crazy. Comic-Con will be a little bit more laid back this year, but there'll still be at least like 10 or 14 videos that I'll be posting. I'll explain that stuff a little bit better in the Comic-Con previews, so look out for that starting like Thursday or Friday. I will leave you with this one teaser for The Flash Season 2. Grant Gustin said that we would learn who the villain is right away, and it would be a crossover villain with Legends of Tomorrow. So Vandal Savage might also be the big bad on Flash Season 2. Everybody just explode about that in the comments. Just in case you guys didn't see it, I posted a video last week explaining what's going on with the Flash Season 2 premiere and Arrow Season 4, so you can click here to learn all about that, and you can click here to learn all about the multiverse on The Flash. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tomorrow.